Welcome, everybody, to the American Space Museum. I'm Marquette. We're so glad you're with us this day to stay curious with Mr. Burt Dicht. Welcome, Burt.
Hey, Mark. Glad to be here again.
Well, Burt is the managing director of the subscriptions membership for the National Space Society. And if you're not a member, you will be after this show today. Burt, how are you?
Doing well. How about you?
We're good. We're good. Of course, we lost our leader, Karen Conklin, and we'll touch on that
Yes.
in a minute. So it's still hard to
We
grasp, but you also,
we know what that is like with our CEO Anita Gale passed away in May.
yeah,
So yeah, it's a shock.
yeah, unexpectedly, probably
Yes.
just kind of setting in, really. But
It's still hard to believe.
our small little operation here, we're kind of efforting through that.
And
Uh,
I just keep hearing amazing things about Karen. I've met her a few times when I've been
mhm.
here, but I didn't really know her. So I just but everyone keeps talking about the impact she had.
Absolutely. I'm going to put her slide up there since we're talking about her. Her wake is Saturday. And we look back, Bert, you have just become part of our Stay Curious family in the last year. And I look back at about, 18 months ago when this cancer was taking over her body and her enthusiasm and drive was kind of getting less. And she and I were doing less throwing spaghetti on the walls, we called it, brainstorming ideas. And, I look back and it's just, I wouldn't know you, Bert, if it wasn't for this beautiful lady and everybody in our Stay Curious family here. They all
Absolutely.
know it that this is her passion was addictive to me, and that's why I moved here. And she touched so many lives like that. And to die at age 65, just a brief illness, stage 4 lung cancer. It's just a crying shame, Bert. And
Oh, absolutely. My sympathies to the entire community. It just,
thank you.
uh,
Well,
um,
I would
but we
appreciate
we
that.
build on now what she started. That's the goal,
Yeah,
right?
we do. Her spirit will
Yeah.
live on in this
Yes.
building as long as this core group of employees that she nurtured are still here. So this will also be live. It's at 2 o'clock on Saturday. We will have a reception here at the American Space Museum at her husband Mark's request. So that's a way to give her your final thoughts to Karen. One that a couple things she championed was our STEAM education as well as our auctions. And our next auction, thanks to Chuck Jeffrey, our collection analyst, there's how to get a hold of Chuck at americanspacemuseum.org, or there's his phone number in Orlando. And he's just a wealth of knowledge and will tell you straight up what uh, if what exactly what the stuff you have is worth. So
I bought something at one of your auctions. It was a compilation of the Peanuts strip where Snoopy is going to the moon,
yeah,
and I just had it framed, and I just love it. All the different uh, images of Snoopy on his way to the moon, and he's on the moon. He even beat the cat next door,
yeah.
the first beagle on the moon, and then he's coming back, and he's facing the other way. So he says, "You can tell I'm returning from the moon because I'm facing the other way." On his, I love it.
A lot of great space memorabilia. I
Uh,
think you
uh,
got a couple pictures where I saw you. This we'll talk about that. The memorabilia show at the Sands Space History Museum. Chuck is calling this Space History, Gold and Silver and Art Auction. It's actually our 34th auction. Karen
wow.
worked these so hard and heavy, the first 20 of them. And then Chuck had been giving a lot of the money collected to us, and he created a business out of it, which is just fine. And we've got a great deal with him about memorabilia. We're not selling things at the museum. We're selling things that come through the door that we have multiples of and don't need for the
Right.
collection, or something consigned like Bert gives us a cruise signed Apollo 11, a Buzz Neil
Do I have one of those?
yeah. If you did, it'd be worth $3,000 to $5,000. And
It must
he
be
would,
in my closet,
yeah,
Mark.
that's right. You'd get 80% of that maybe,
Okay.
depending on what year you work with Chuck. So September 7th is when the gavel starts falling, and a lot of you do contribute and watch that. It's an education to watch too, this auction. So there's Karen again. There you are.
Hey, there we
Dean
go.
Babcock's watching. We got William Whiting's watching. Dave Stangy's up in
Oh, yes,
Michigan.
Dave's.
Happy Hump Day.
Yes.
Boiler Hat is watching. We've got Steve J up in Lake County Spaceport. Says hello to everyone. Stay Curious Gang up there. He's on Fox Lake, Illinois. That's the Michigan
Oh,
above Chicago.
right.
You ever met Mitch Rothman of NASA Manned Space?
I
He's got a
don't know.
monster Facebook page, about
Oh.
17,000 people.
Wow, I'll have to take a look
And
at that. Yes.
yeah, Manned Space. He's in Colorado. They'll be heading to Florida here. He'll be at Karen's wake. Tom Celentano, another great space geek. Burt, we've got, and I've been bragging about it the last month, we have got such intelligent space lovers out there.
Oh,
All right. So they'll keep you on your P's and
it's
Q's
similar
here.
to our National Space Society membership when we do our space forums. I am just in awe of their knowledge.
And you've got a Space Forum Thursday we're going to talk
Yes,
about
absolutely.
here with a real popular celebrity. There we are to tease that. You've got Robert Zubrin, a New World on Space advocate. He's got a new book out. That's just a little tease there. We're going to talk about
We'll
that.
talk about it more in a minute. Yep.
Yeah, that's tomorrow evening, right?
That's tomorrow.
And
Yes.
I need to set my alarm for that. I've been to one of them, the artist lady you had. I found
Yes.
fascinating.
Right.
And then, darn it, I missed Bob Seek last month because, of course, he's a mentor of mine here.
And we
How'd
just
Bob
had,
do?
and we Bob did great, and we just had Jonathan Ward and Mike Leinbach
Okay.
talking about bringing Columbia home.
All right.
So
We'll talk about that in a second. But what we wanted to talk about, the current event news, there was the launch last night at 3 something in the morning, 3:40, I think. And the first stage of a Falcon 9 actually crashed, toppled over on the barge out in the middle of the Atlantic in the middle of the night. And though it was how many correct?
253 in a row. That's successful landings.
So you miss one, and guess what? FAA grounds Falcon 9 from launching, all right, which sets back the Polaris mission, which may set back the Crew 9 that was scheduled no earlier than September 24th. Talk about that in a minute. Bart, there's 350 Atlas 1 first stages at the bottom of the Atlantic Ocean out there. This was not the second stage to get the crew to orbit. It was a flawless launch.
Yes, it's interesting. I saw the post this morning about the crash landing, and people were speculating, would it impact any future flights? And most of the people were saying, well, why would it? It's the landing. But as someone pointed out, you don't really know what actually caused it, right? So I guess in the interests of safety, especially when you're talking about sending people up, you don't take any chances anymore. Right.
You don't.
Yes.
And the lessons learned from Columbia and
Yep.
Challenger are certainly that. Err on the side of safety. And but it emphasizes again, space is hard.
I know what people say, it's a cliche, but it's the truth. And you have no margins for error.
I got my fingers crossed on this
Yes.
Polaris Dawn, exposing 4 people to the vacuum of space in an untried spacesuit. Without any, and 2 of them are going to do a spacewalk without handrails and stuff like
Oh, I
that.
think they did install handrails.
It's a little ladder.
Yeah, they
have
modified the
yeah.
spacecraft to accommodate them.
But there's no
Yes.
details of that for
Yes.
the common Joe and Jane space geek out there.
It's definitely ambitious.
Well, we're going to enjoy a great conversation with Burt Dicht. I promise you I'm going to shut up here and turn him loose. Burt, what's on our green screen here that you brought in, my friend?
Well, that is the Pegasus barge that belongs to NASA. And it was actually, it's owned by NASA, and it was used to bring the external tank to the Kennedy Space Center from the Michaud facility outside of New Orleans. They actually modified this to carry the core stage of the Artemis SLS.
Okay.
So they had to make it to the Artemis core stage is 50 feet longer than the external tank and weighs a lot more. The core stage is about 180,000 pounds. So the barge had to be refitted and obviously extended. So what you're seeing there is the barge in the turn basin of the Kennedy Space Center, right next to where the media site is. And you see the tugboats are bringing it in, and inside that shelter is the core stage. So they're getting ready to unload it.
That was a big event about a month ago.
About a month ago.
We'll see some pictures
Yes.
of that up close here.
Yes.
So that's the tease for that there. Just the Polaris Dawn mission, your magazine, and oh my gosh, I meant to go get one to bring it in here.
Oh, at Astra.
Now, at Astra, Marty's going to go do that. Of course, you keep up with the latest things. Rod Pyle, your excellent editor and staff
yes.
there. We'll get Rod in the queue here on Google Meets or something here very soon because we want to build a relationship with the National Space Society.
Absolutely.
We talked about that.
I'm just looking at the patch. It's a really nice patch.
Yes, and we love the artwork
Yes.
that they do. Have you seen the Crew 9? Thank you, Marty. Here's an Ad Astra magazine, folks. Like all magazines.
That is the latest issue, and the next one's coming out next month in September.
All right. Very slick, and we're already revving up for the International Space Development Council
Conference.
Yeah, May 22nd.
Actually, it's June. They had the date is not correct there.
I thought it was June because
It's June.
they asked me to be on the committee, one of the steering
Yes.
committees of this thing, and when I held that up, I'm going,
I'm not
Jennifer
sure how
said
that.
June.
I'm not sure how that happened.
All right.
But
well,
it's typically what it is. The conference for the last years has been on Memorial Day weekend. So I think that's how that happened. And this year, or 2025, it will be in June, and we hope that will have some positive influence on attendance as well.
Yeah, of course, there's always current events in these quarterlies, and that's what we're going to talk about today. Just a reminder here. So we know a fallout of the Starliner that's going to come back empty. And by the way, I give kudos to NASA Administrator Don Nelson at that press conference. He just came out within the first two sentences saying Butch and Sonny are going to stay up there till February, and we're going to bring the Crew Starliner back empty.
Right.
And he didn't make any muckety muck.
Just went right to it.
Yep, he did.
Yep.
And that was something I applaud him for that, as do a lot of people. But this creates. There's the Crew Dragon 9 patch that would have been launched already.
It was supposed to be this month. That's right.
This week.
Yes.
This week, I think. The Crew was a rookie Cardman, another rookie Haig. A rookie Russian. Cardman is Xena Cardman, a female commander rookie. And then Haig has actually been to space. And so Stephanie Wilson, waiting 12 years after 3 shuttle flights to go to space. So what's going to happen now to take this Crew Dragon up with just 2 people is they're saying that due to NASA's crew rotation agreement with Roscosmos, the Russian space agency, the Russian Gorbanov is required to fly the mission. And yet he is not a test pilot. He's a rookie. They think that Cardman, a 36-year-old rookie and geobiologist who's not a test pilot, might command this, though it's not certain. The logical commander would be the Nick Hague, and Hague survived a Soyuz abort right after it was launched, and actually they attained suborbital altitude about 70 miles up, and then came back down because of an anomaly with the second stage.
I remember that. Yes.
Yeah. And then he flew back up to the space station to complete his mission. However, the Crew Dragon is a highly automated spacecraft, and SpaceX has successfully launched an all-civilian crew with Inspiration 4, Jared Isaacman's previous flight, without the same rigorous astronaut candidate training that Cardman received. So,
Did they say when they're going to make a decision on that?
No, they have
'cause
not. And now a crew, the first stage being grounded, is going to play into this. So
Yes.
no timeline, I guess, except for the training involved. If Sonny and Butch are going to stay up there until, actually, they're saying March 2025.
Well, it would be 6 months after
Yeah,
launch, after Crew 9 launches.
150 days
Yes.
docked up there. So
Incredible.
what a interesting drama going on here. But these are human beings' lives. They talked
Absolutely.
about, gee, uh, what Christmas plans did Butch and Sonny have? They were only supposed to be up there 8 days.
Right.
Maybe they had some sweet expedition to Antarctica planned or something like that. Who knows, right? But got to put it on hold. And have you ever met either one, Butch or Sonny, at an event?
I was at the crew walkout, but
Mhm.
I did not meet them personally
Okay.
when they,
Uh,
yes.
Great people, test
Yes.
pilots, the right people to be up there. And I don't like the word stuck. Do you?
Well, I always objected to the word that they were stranded.
Okay.
There was, people would be commenting to me, and this is at the early stages when the thruster problem first surfaced. And I was telling people that they're not stranded. I said NASA and Boeing, because when the vehicle comes back, the service module is destroyed, right? That doesn't come back. So
Right.
they're doing everything they can to test it now while it's in orbit so they can get data. And that helps them. So they're taking their time in doing that. Plus, they were doing some of the tests on Earth at White Sands with the thrusters.
Hmm.
So it was a planned out process.
Maybe Bert will end up like the long duration exposure facility
Well,
of the
that's
shuttle era, where the Boeing Starliner's up there, 85 days now instead of 8, 10 times longer, and it'll
right.
be so they'll get see the materials, how they age, have confidence in. Well, we can keep that thing up there for 90 days in confidence. Hopefully, that's a silver lining.
I think so. They'll be able to analyze it, and it looks like they'll make a decision on when exactly it'll come down next month, sometime in September.
Okay. Well, get off of current events, Bert. There's the website of the National Space Society.
Yeah,
Give us the corporate thumbnail of
yes.
who you are and why you are.
Well, everybody, we are the National Space Society, or NSS, is a space advocacy organization. We trace our roots back to 1974 with Werner von Braun, who created the National Space Institute, and 1975 with Gerard O'Neill, who created the L5 Society. Those two organizations merged in 1987, and our goal is a spacefaring civilization. So we're working for the betterment of humanity through space exploration, space development, and ultimately space settlement. So we welcome you. NSS is a great organization.
Though the magazine is just one of the outreach things, they do, of course, the usual social media presence on Facebook, and this Space Forum is part of your presence there.
That is right. I'll talk about that. And we do have a great blog as well, as you have that shown up there. So a number of things I'm talking about today I put in blogs already, so people will be able to get more information.
There's your featured person tomorrow night.
Yeah,
How can we join this?
Well, we have to send out a link for you. It's done through Zoom webinar. So the best thing for you to do is you can go onto one of our social media sites, Facebook, LinkedIn, or Instagram, National Space Society sites, and there's a link to register there. Or feel free just to send me an email, Burt, Burt.Dicht, Dicht, at nss.org, and I will get you a registration link.
All right.
Yes, so that's tomorrow, and that's tomorrow at 9 o'clock Eastern time, 9 p.m. Yes.
All right. Check it out.
And actually, they can also get the information on the blog right there. You see, it's the NSS Space Forum.
Yeah.
So if they go to nss.org and just go to our blog, they can get the link right there.
That's a screen grab I took just a little bit ago. So tell us a little bit about your speaker tomorrow.
Well, Dr. Robert Zubrin is a really interesting individual. I've met him several times at our ISDCs, our International space development conferences. He's actually a PhD, has a PhD in nuclear engineering, and worked for a number of space organizations before starting his own company. And he has done space consulting for the last 20 some years. But his real interest is in settling Mars. And he wrote a definitive book called The Case for Mars, about, I believe it's about 25 years ago, actually, now.
Mm-hmm.
And he just has this new book out called A New World on Mars, where he's saying we're poised to actually get there soon and settle. And in the book, he does talk a lot about the Starship, which is going to help us hopefully get there at some point. So he's going to be talking about the book tomorrow and what we hope to accomplish there, why it's the perfect time to make this commitment, and how it really will help advance humanity. So,
can I ask him questions?
oh, yes, you can.
That's what it's all about. A forum.
Yes. Well, he's only going to do about a 15-minute presentation, and then we're going to do the rest are questions, just to see what people think, and really, really interesting.
Well, we've got a more people chiming in. Brian Camp likes the picture there. CVC vessel, he says. They're funny on space exploration. Robert Laws joined us in Dundee, Scotland.
Oh, wow.
Up there enjoying his evening cocktail. Yeah, Robert Laws have been in our museum before and on the Space Coast. Nick Sedler, another one of our well-informed Stay Curious fans, says The Case for Mars was a pretty influential book.
Very influential, yes.
Yes. It opened up people's eyes to potential settlements and things like that.
Absolutely. And he's done, he's the president of the Mars Society, which of course is focused in on that. So, so you can tell he cares a lot about Mars.
Well, and Mars is at opposition this fall. We'll be looking at that through a telescope. Those of you that have never seen the Red Planet, it's half the size of Earth, but so big in our minds. People don't realize it's half the size of the Earth. It's a very small planet on there. And you want to know more about it physically, just go to NASA Mars rovers. You'll be amazed
and
with the spirit. With
Robert Zubrin's new book, he does talk about the history of Mars and what we've done as a prelude to talking about settling it.
Good, I'll check it out. I'll check it out there. Now, the rest of this is pictures you brought in.
A couple, these are a couple. I hope you don't mind doing a couple of commercials.
Absolutely not. I've told you before, we welcome this forum for you in the National Space Society, and we enjoy you being on once a month. I know everybody's enjoying you being on today, and you certainly have some friends. In fact, who said they met you at? Mitch Man Space says he met you at the Astronaut Hall of Fame this July.
Right.
Okay. Mitch Rothman and his wife are big advocates, and they go to everything. That they got their own tuxes and evening gown. There she is.
You have to be prepared. Yes,
that's right.
But what this is, as far as the National Space Society is concerned, we've always had people, our members, contact us and say, when are you going to run some tours? Now, the National Space Institute did do several launch tours way back in the 1980s. But launch tours, as you probably know, could be very problematic because sometimes you don't launch. And if people are spending a lot of money and come and you don't launch, they're not too happy.
Those Polaris Dawn people.
Yeah, everyone's coming for that.
Already left their hotels from 3 days ago.
So it's a challenge in that respect. But once we moved to open our office here at the Space Center, we thought, well, maybe now's an opportunity to try to not do a launch tour, but to do a tour of the Space Center itself. And we were able to connect with Galactic Medallion. It's a specialized tour company. The CEO is Elizabeth Schneider. She's also an NSS member and cares very deeply and has passion for space exploration. She's also an educator. And we connected and we talked about the possibility of doing a tour for our members. So we did the first tour back in January. And you see those are pictures from that first tour. And we had a great tour guide at Atlantis, former shuttle launch director Mike Leinbach, You can see there in the photograph looking at the 3 shuttle main engines of Atlantis there.
Good to see Mike in our museum an
Yeah,
hour ago, bringing you some books. He
yes.
is the author with Jonathan Ward of Bringing Columbia Home, and
And he was able, one of the things that he'll be doing this again during our tour in September, where he'll be giving us the tour of Atlantis, and then we'll head back to the Center for Space Education and have lunch, and you'll be able to ask him all sorts of questions, that type of thing. But the idea of these tours was to bring our members together. We all have this shared passion for space exploration, get a chance to talk, find out what's driving them, and then also just enjoy the history and legacy of the Kennedy Space Center, and also get kind of excited about what's coming next, because we go into the gateway, we go out to the launch pads. So you see 39A for SpaceX, you go out to see 39B where Artemis will be launched. We actually even went over to the Cape Canaveral Space Force Station and drove by the Blue Origin launch site for their New Glenn. So it's a great way to see our history and also get excited about what's coming next. So this tour will be on the 19th and 22nd of September. It's limited to just 20 people because we wanted to make sure that it has an intimate feel to it, because that makes it so much more valuable. So feel free, if you're interested, you can go to Galactic Medallion website, and or drop me a quick email, and be glad to connect you on that. So the slots are filling up, so it's only 3 weeks away. So hopefully we can get some of you to join us for this great tour.
Great. Tell Elizabeth if she needs help, I can sit her right beside me here.
Oh, absolutely.
And she can talk about
it. Might be great to hear her talking just about what her company does.
We've talked about it before. In fact, her card just flipped up on my desk. And those are never any coincidences, are they?
No.
When somebody's business card flips up in my desk, I said, for some reason I need to get a hold of that.
Yeah.
And I thought about her on this. So,
and of course, this is next year, but it's never too early to just mark this in your calendar. Is the ISDC, which you had mentioned on the back of cover of the Ad Astra magazine. That's the International Space Development Conference. This is an annual conference we've done for now over 40 years.
Wow.
This year, or I should say 2025, next year, it will be in Orlando. And as you said, we're looking forward to you as you're part of our local organizing committee. We want to leverage everything we can from the space ecosystem that we have. There's so much here that can turn this ISDC into the greatest one ever. They're all amazing. Our last one last year was in LA, and 2 years ago was in Dallas, where I had a chance to meet Jared Isaacman. He was one of our speakers at that one in Dallas.
What was your impression of him?
I was really impressed. He seemed to be a very humble guy. He talked about his background, how he started his own company when he was still in high school.
Yeah, just like Bezos.
Yeah, it was. He just seemed very humble, very down to earth. But you were also very impressed with his abilities.
I saw him at Space Com, and I feel the same way. But he definitely is driven with a vision, just like, and
he cares so much about it. Yeah,
and he's very in partnering with Musk. He said Elon Musk is just going to keep building these starships like in the 50s and building DC 10s or 9s or whatever that aircraft was on the assembly line.
By the way, Robert Zubrin talks a lot about Starship in his book, because he sees that as a critical component to get to Mars. But you're right about Jared Isaacman. One of the things that I had read in Aviation Week, this was before Inspiration 4, there was an article about him doing the Inspiration 4 flight. And he didn't want to just be, spend all this money and be a tourist on a, he wanted to actually do something meaningful with this. And so that's what led him to explore the idea of his own mission. And so I was impressed with that, but I wrote a letter to the editor saying, well, I don't care for me. I'm happy to be a tourist. If someone wants to take me up there, I'm happy to go. And I wrote this letter to Aviation Week, and they actually printed it.
Oh, okay. All right. Get on there.
So everybody, if you're out there listening, I'm good to go.
Yes, there you go. Also, we've got Burt. This is like the fourth time you've been on. You actually pinch hit for me on vacation about 6 months ago. But Burt wrote an excellent story on Apollo 11 that got the commendation of Buzz Aldrin.
Yes,
Go
one of the
check
best
that
he's ever
out.
read.
Yep, says the best he ever read, and I've read it, and it is very good too, Burt.
Thank you.
Well, just tell me when to push the button. You lined up
Yes.
these pictures.
So I've
here.
got a few things I was going to share about. I know when I was here last time, we talked strictly about Apollo 11. So there are a couple things that happened at the Space Center, and it's always nice to be here. And I think that's another reason it's great to have the National Space Society located here. So this is actually, if you remember, there was a Falcon Heavy launch back in June that launched a weather satellite for NOAA, the National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration, that goes to, I think it was called. And what they did, they had a special press site a press opening to talk to some of the scientists and people working for NOAA. And what you're seeing here is actually Gonzo. This is a Gulfstream 4 Hurricane Hunter.
Okay.
So this is one of the aircraft that NOAA uses to track hurricanes. This one doesn't fly through the hurricane. It's a G4, but it flies around and above. It can go up to 45,000 feet, and we were able to go inside. It's loaded with equipment that cone thing sticking out at the back. That's actually a Doppler radar system that they use, but they can also drop sensors into the hurricane, and all that information is fed back to the meteorologists so they can assess all the atmospheric conditions, and they can place this aircraft wherever they need to be, wherever they see a track of a hurricane, so it can fly into them. So it's very, very impressive to see them do all the work they do.
Just the pilots, or
these are the two pilots. The one on the left is Lieutenant Commander Bodnagar. She actually was a naval aviator, and the commander on the right, Commander Barswig, was an Air Force pilot. So they left the military service and went to work for NOAA, and I asked about the training that they go through, and it's pretty extensive. But when they first are learning, they fly the right seat, obviously, as they're working and testing hurricanes. They don't do as much simulator work, so they actually get them out there and start tracking the hurricanes. And there's me inside. That's me inside the cockpit there.
all right.
Yes.
Did you fly with them?
I didn't. That would have been great. That would have been great.
Before we go to the next thing here, Marty's got a question.
Here we have a question from Go on the 1202.
Going to 1202. That's a
Is the
good
print
handle.
edition, Burt, is the print edition at Astra available in the UK?
Oh yes, any member who gets the print membership gets the Ad Astra sent out wherever they live.
Are they in Books A Million or anywhere like that?
They are in a number of bookstores now,
Okay.
but I couldn't tell you whether they're in any bookstores outside of the
in
U.S.
the UK there. All right.
Yeah.
Thank you there.
If they sends me an email, I'd be glad to drop them a copy, a courtesy copy.
Cool. And
Yes.
that is Burt,
Burt.
BURT-DICH.
Dot Dicht.
Yeah, BURT.DICHT at.
NSS.org.
Okay. And plus he's in the, you go to the website, you can find him under the leader
Yes.
things in there. Tom Celentano says 40 years ago this week, I joined an NSS tour for my first launch.
Oh wow!
40 years ago.
40 years ago. Which one? Do you remember which one that was?
That would be
So
one of the early shuttles,
84.
1984. So
I
it's off the
actually
scroll here.
I actually
Tom will tell us.
I
which
went to see with the NSI tour 61C, which of course is the one before Challenger.
Mm-hmm.
So it was scheduled to launch in December.
January 24th is when yours went up.
Yeah, finally
51C.
went up in January. Yeah,
Yeah.
just there was the one. It was that had built Senator Bill, Senator Bill Nelson at the time, or I guess he was a congressman at that time, who's now our administrator.
That would have been 61.
Yeah, 61C.
C. Yeah, 61C. Yeah, I was
Yep.
looking at 51C, but yeah. Yeah, well, yeah, that was where the numbers and numerals there. That
Yes.
we're glad they
And
got
guess
off
who?
of there.
Our tour leader was Lori Garver.
Discovery, he said.
It was
first
Discovery.
launch of
Yeah.
Discovery.
Yeah. Okay.
So awesome there. And Gary Gerald's watching. He's in Collins, Georgia. And thank you all for watching here. If you got a question for Burt, please chime in there. Marty's watching, and we'll respond on our UCX family microphone. Ain't seen Tommy or Mark. Mark's working too hard. Tommy must be taking the grandkid, picking her up.
There you go. Yes.
At school there. So
So this is actually the launch of the weather satellite on a Falcon Heavy, and I know everybody seems to like night launches. They are spectacular, but I love the day launches because you can see the rocket.
yeah, I'm with you.
Yeah.
You can see the payload.
Yes.
Instead of just a fiery ball.
So this is taken from the media site.
Nice shot there.
Yes, and it was
Huge satellite. Look at that fairing. That is a monster GEOS satellite.
yes,
there, right?
GOES. Yep.
Yeah, I had it backwards.
Yeah, it goes up to a geostationary orbit.
Yeah.
So it's about 20,000 feet, 22,000 miles.
But the fun part of that was those two core stages coming back.
They
to
came
us.
back, but where we are at the media site, you really can't see them come back that way.
They go
well.
behind the
trees.
don't they?
Yes, yes. I
That
didn't
was-
get any good shots of it coming back, and but they really had to thread a needle. It was just, I don't know, the irony of a weather satellite going up and they were trying to dodge weather
Dodge your head.
to get the launch in. But a really spectacular launch. Yes.
Well, there's two wonderful astronauts.
Yeah, and actually
gonna
the
make that.
same day of that launch, the Kennedy Space Center Visitor Complex had two sessions celebrating women in space.
Mm-hmm.
So I had to squeeze those in as well. I went out in the morning to see the Hurricane Hunter, got back and got to see two of the sessions. So of course Nicole Stott on my right there, on the left in the picture, and Barbara Morgan, who was
There you
Krista
go.
McCullough's
Get rid of
backup.
me, Marty. I
Yep.
don't need to be on there. There you go.
Yeah, who was
Yeah.
Krista McCullough's backup for the Teacher in Space program.
We love both of them.
Yes,
They're awesome.
yes. Oh,
and,
yes. So they gave a great talk. Took a lot of questions from the audience.
Nicole was launched today on 128
Oh, that's good.
at midnight, Marty,
Right.
with Jose Hernandez was on that. Jose Hernandez and Alvarez were the first
Yeah, and-
Hispanics to fly together.
And we met Jose Hernandez was at our International Space Development Conference in LA.
How'd you like him?
Really nice guy.
Yeah.
Yes.
Did
And
he have some wine for you to sample from his?
did not have any wine.
vineyard,
No, he told us that he has
Luna
a
winery
winery now. He did not have any wine to sample.
Uh,
And then the next picture.
we're hoping that Marty's working. Marty's been in contact with him to try to get him here to do a book signing, and
he would
so
be
forth.
great. Yes.
And Jose's movie, A Million Miles Away, his one flight launched today. It's a good little Hallmark type of movie.
I love the story that he tells about when he approached his father.
Oh, yeah.
Yes.
Marty, we love that.
Yeah, saying, I want to be an astronaut. And his father didn't laugh. His father didn't ridicule him. You can't be an astronaut. His father said, well, if you're going to be an astronaut, you have to have a recipe and explain some things that you're going to need to do if you're going to become an astronaut. And it's just a fabulous story. So
Marty's going to tell where that happened. We loved it. It wasn't in the movie, and we think they missed a part there because we love that part. Go ahead, Marty.
Yeah, in the book it's in the kitchen,
yes, he's mentioned that during his talk. He said it was in the kitchen.
but in the movie it's done in the fields, and you just don't get the emphasis.
Right.
But in the kitchen, only three things happened, he said. You ate, you got blessed out, disciplined,
Yes, he did say
and you
that.
did homework.
Yes, he did say that.
And he thought,
So
where
he-
did I get in trouble? We already ate, I already did homework. What am I getting in trouble for? And I'd love to meet his dad if he's still alive. His dad said, son, if if you want to do that, you're going to have to do this. You're going to have to do this. You're going to have to do that. Just laid out like a tremendous. What a mentor his dad had to be to him.
But then also you have to he credits his wife.
Yes.
Because he was rejected all these times, and she made a
12
comment.
times.
Yeah, she made a comment saying, "Well, you're not getting picked. What are you missing that the others who are getting picked have? Maybe that's what you need to do." And that's what led him on to get his scuba diving, to get his pilot's license. So he started doing these other things that made him more well-rounded.
We digress with
yeah, I know we did, but
STS
it's a great story.
128 launched today in space history 15 years ago. Nicole Stott, we love you for all that you've done to the museum. I understand she is going to come to Karen's wake Saturday.
Oh, fabulous.
So
yes.
she and her husband Chris just live over in
They're in
St.
Tampa,
Petersburg.
on the other side of Florida. Yeah.
All right.
And then Barbara just came by the office.
Oh, did she?
Yes.
That's sweet.
So
What
that
a
was
sweet
nice.
lady she is.
And she's actually going to be. Everyone knows I'm a volunteer for the IEEE. I retired from IEEE, Institute of Electrical and Electronics Engineers, and we're doing a STEM summit in October, and Barbara is going to be one of our keynotes.
Great. There's that panel you were talking
And there's
about.
the other panel with Charlie Blackwell Thompson, the launch director for Artemis, and Barbara and Susan Kilrain and Nicole.
We love Susan Kilrain. She's a very, very pilot twice, would have been a commander, except she said my husband and I got kids, and he happens to be a Navy SEAL.
He was a
trainer.
He was a Navy SEAL, and he's an admiral.
Yeah, right. He's an admiral now.
Yes,
so,
retired admiral now.
Yeah,
Yes.
So
these the next few shots are what happened on the day that the core stage arrived. So they actually took us out the day of the arrival. They took us out to what is called the Rotation, Processing, and Surge Facility. Okay. And I'm like, okay, what is that?
yeah, right. Rotation, processing,
and surge facility.
RPSF.
Yeah. And I didn't know what it was. I had to actually look it up. And this is where they process the segments of the Artemis solid rocket boosters. So you see in the stands there, those are the two aft skirts of that will fly on Artemis 2. So when they come in, they're processed there, and then once the processing is done, they are sent over to the vehicle assembly building for stacking. So it's a very involved. It was really interesting because you can't take anything in that could that has a radio. It's obviously this is solid fuel in there, so we had to take our watch off. If you had a smartwatch, we had to leave our phones in the bus, and they're very, very strict about that. So you had to be very careful, and of course we weren't allowed to touch anything in there. But you can see a better picture there of that aft skirt.
Quiet.
Yep.
Something else. Wow.
Yeah, really impressive. And this one, in a side building, you see one of the other segments of the solid rocket booster with the NASA worm on it.
I like talking about all the senses. Was there any particular smell?
I didn't really. No.
Of that.
I didn't pick anything up.
Okay.
No.
I always wondered if that stuff smelled in the air.
I was trying to remember because when I interned here at the Space Center way back in the summer of '80, we went into the VAB and they had solid rocket boosters in the VAB, and I don't remember any kind of
Is
smell.
it quiet in there? Or
It was quiet.
There's not much industry noise in
No,
the background.
No, and this is just off to the
Fans
side
or
of the VAB,
Okay.
so you can see how the other building looks there with the stacks.
Cool. Great
Yes.
insight here from Burt Dicht. We enjoy Burt once a month. This is just one of the many guests that we have once a month on Stay Curious. Terry White, our chief of the shuttle garages, is on frequently. We just had Nick Thomas
Right.
on talking about. Nick did a review of Apollo 13 and Maroon, the two movies.
Oh, wow.
We
I would
enjoyed
like
that.
to see. I have to go back and
Yeah.
look at that one.
Yeah.
I don't know. I enjoyed Marooned.
Did you?
I know a lot of people don't like it.
Yeah.
I enjoyed Marooned.
Yeah, we the waving at the Russian guy over there that
Yeah.
ends up saving him and all that.
Martin Caden.
Yeah, it
written
was
by
1969
Martin,
there. So there's our
so
background there.
this actually it was the same day that we had the tour of the rotation processing and surge facility.
Tugboat. I see the wake
Yep.
in the water.
So they bring it in and they had to spin it around and then put it toward the dock. And so they didn't unload it that day. We had to come back the next day as they start unloading the core stage. So, but very interesting.
Pegasus, very famous piece of kind of a hidden figure of itself.
Oh, yes.
In the space program, isn't it?
Absolutely.
Pegasus, this barge.
So here's my impression of this. You say, oh, we're going to go see, when you come here to the Space Center and you see a launch,
Yeah.
or you see astronauts and you're excited. Is it really going to be that exciting to see them move a rocket out of off a barge and into the vehicle assembly building? But I have to admit, it was really, it was slow moving, but very exciting.
Okay. Look at the size of the workers at the
Yes.
bottom. Of course, those engines are familiar to us.
Those are shuttle main engines, RS-25s.
That flew.
Yes.
And you know what Nick Thomas told us about the shuttle engines that flew on Artemis 1? One of them was from John McBride's first and only
really?
flight, who just
Really?
passed away.
Oh,
Yeah.
wow. Okay.
And John McBride noted that. I think Nick said he went to McBride's house to watch the launch that November night. Yeah, just.
But you could see, I couldn't get a shot looking into that shelter, but you see there wasn't a lot of clearance there.
Right. No, there's
Yeah.
It's pretty tight fit.
Yes.
In that.
Yes.
What's the official name of that? The Pegasus is just
The Pegasus. Yeah, the
okay.
barge is Pegasus.
I
Yeah.
don't know if it
So
had
you-
some other.
So you could just see I took a few shots. So there it is. It's almost completely out. And you can see, again, it's over 210 feet long, 27.6 feet in diameter, and weighs 188,000 pounds.
Marty Winkel, our co-producer here, was worked for the Space Launch System and worked with these engines. So he cringed when they splashed in the ocean.
Yeah. Yes.
Because they were, I'd like to know how many engines they used of the 135 flights. I think there's like 25 of them.
Yeah, that
they
could be.
played
Yeah.
out there. Great. No,
So
these
now
are nice shots.
it's interesting the device they're using. You wonder how they move something so big, and it's called a self-propelled module transporter.
okay.
So there's actually two pieces to it, one toward the front of the core stage and one toward the back. And it really lets them maneuver that huge rocket very easily.
Oh, it is huge when you see
Yeah,
the
then you'll
cars
see
and
another.
stuff around
Yeah,
it
you'll see
there.
another picture when you see the whole rocket there. And they used a very similar system, for example, when they moved Endeavour from LAX to the California Science Center. So there you get to see a good shot of this modular transport. And the one thing, and maybe one of our viewers knows, I asked a few people, is there someone in there driving it? Or is there someone walking along and remote control
Yeah,
driving?
the joystick.
Yeah, with a joystick. And so someone said, oh, I think there's someone inside, but I really couldn't tell where would someone be and how would they be able to maneuver everything, because you're going to need, that's why all these people are around it. They're guiding it and they're giving the cues.
Yeah.
So
Bert, I said a joystick. Hell, they'd have a smart tablet.
a smart tablet.
With it on there. If you've ever seen the audio
That's right.
engineers at a band or something,
Right.
yeah, they
That's
wouldn't
a
have
smart
joystick.
tab.
What am I saying?
Yeah.
That's a cool picture. I hadn't seen that picture of all the pictures I saw of the rollout there, and thank God they don't have to worry about the foam coming off because the crew are above everything
That's right.
for the first time.
That's right.
The way
Yeah.
it should have been. The
So you can
spacecraft
see
is
how
above all
big it
this.
is, and you get a good idea of that transport system that they've got there.
We're enjoying these pictures there. Great.
It took
Postcards.
about 3 hours or so to make it from the barge. It's only about 6/10 of a mile, but it took about 3 hours or so.
Steve Jokums, he says remote control, just like
It was remote control.
RC, airplane controller.
Okay.
He said more like an airplane controller, so that would be a couple joysticks maybe there. Carlton Bailey asks and says hello. You know,
Hey,
CB.
Carlton. Yep.
Is that the same barge that brought the Apollo sections back in the day?
I don't think so. I think it was designed specifically for the space shuttle program,
Yeah.
bringing the external tank.
And CB is
Yeah.
it seems to me like most of those sections would have come by the Guppy
Yeah.
and landed by land, not by sea, my friend.
But we'll have to check into that. But
I
I
hope you're feeling better. He's had a bout of COVID and
Oh no.
and staying at home so he can come to Karen's wake on Sunday. And Cliff Watson has woke up for his breakfast in Pomona, Australia.
Wow.
He says I met Burt at Shuttle Fest.
Yes.
So he was.
I
here.
remember.
So,
Yes.
yep. So thank you all for watching today. Show you some more postcard pictures.
So they're
of
just getting
Burt.
it into the low bay there, and there were
What
all
would
these
all that
people.
black those
Yeah.
black markings mean? It means
That-
something to somebody.
That's a good question. I
Yeah.
don't know.
Yeah.
And but it was great to see all the Kennedy Space Center employees were lining all over to watch it go in. So
Very
so
interesting.
so it's just they're just moving a rocket, right?
Yeah,
But it's so
right.
exciting.
Yeah. Every journey
Yes.
begins with the first step of the journey.
Right, right.
All right.
Now, a nice thing there too. During that day, I got a chance to talk with Doug Hurley,
Mhm.
who of course commanded the first crewed mission of the Crew Dragon. He was also on STS-135 and STS-127,
Mhm.
and so he's now working for Northrop,
Okay.
and part of their propulsion team that builds the solid rocket boosters, and
I
so
love Doug Hurley's story. You, of course, have eaten a few meals at Zorella's
oh yes, of course,
restaurant in there.
yeah.
And we were privileged. I think Tommy Usiak, who finally joined us. Hi, Tom, and Mark Usiak, and the gang was there with Jack Lausma
Oh wow!
when
Right.
Jack was out Space Center. And Doug Hurley was in a group in the other room, and he was like a little kid asking permission if he could talk to Jack Lausma. He wanted to meet Jack Lausma.
Right.
And he actually asked, would it be okay to come over and say hi to him? So Doug Hurley, great guy, married to astronaut.
Yes, that's right.
He's married to astronaut, still active astronaut.
No, I think she retired.
Oh, okay.
don't-
Who am I thinking of?
Check it out.
But
Yeah.
one of you will tell me there, okay?
Yes, I think she's retired as an astronaut now.
Sorry, Mark. You said the STS, oh, okay. Parts of the Apollo did come.
Did they, on that barge?
Yeah.
Oh
on the
wow.
barge there.
Okay.
Yeah, the stage 1 and 2, he says, came
Right.
on there. Thank you.
But it's interesting with Doug because he works for Northrop now. Of course, I worked for Northrop, so I
Right.
said we had a nice connection. And I worked on
Now
the
Northrop Grumman.
now Northrop
technically,
Grumman. That's right. It
in
was
Melbourne
it was
there.
just Northrop when I worked for it. But he also was the first Marine aviator to fly the F-18 Super Hornet.
Oh.
So I worked on that. So we had a nice talk. We had a
Oh,
nice
that's
connection
cool.
there
That's
with
neat.
our Northrop connections.
Yeah, he's a great guy. He's got a long future ahead of him
And
promoting.
so this is actually, I was at the Intrepid Museum way back in
oh, really? New York City.
This is 2011, and the STS-135 crew came to visit the Intrepid. So
Okay.
I had a picture with him. It looks like I had the same hairstyle back then, but I had a little bit more weight now.
There's Elizabeth.
Yeah, there's Elizabeth. So
We
this
were
is
talking about with her Galactic Medallion Tour Company there.
this is
Charming lady, passionate about space.
absolutely. Now, is it okay to mention one of your competitors, the Sands Space History Museum?
Sure, absolutely. No.
I know
Jamie
it-
Draper.
Yes.
No,
Yep.
no. Jamie's done an absolute fabulous job there. In fact, I think you know our volunteer Connie
Oh, yes.
McDaniel. Connie's
Yes.
volunteering there today.
Oh, wow.
I
Okay.
hope you had a good day there, Connie. They only stay open till what, 3 o'clock
Right.
in the
Right.
afternoon. But no, Connie's uh, jumped ship. She's a trader.
Oh.
She's helping them out.
Well, you
No,
were there actually this day.
no, I love the
Thi-
Sands History
This
Museum
was
and everything they do.
this was just a
we
few
we
weeks
love
ago.
partnering with them on anything
Yeah.
we can.
This was just a couple weeks ago on the 14th, and it was actually a job fair, a career exploration workshop.
That job fair was jam packed, 20 deep, lined up to
Yes.
talk to some of the major companies. That was a home run for.
And one of our NSS members, Robert Katz,
Yes,
from the World Innovation Network,
right. Hi, Robert.
and Stephanie Robinson from Career Source, they organized this job fair in order to connect the
I didn't know
talent.
Stephanie was involved
Yeah,
in that.
yes.
We use Career Source people at our
Oh.
front desk occasionally.
Yeah, they both were involved in arranging this, and they invited NSS to get a table. As part of, there were about 20 some companies, but there were about 30 plus other community organizations that Robert liked to call them, that play a role in
Mhm.
creating this space ecosystem. And so it was a great opportunity for us to number one, showcase NSS. And there I'm holding Rupert the space armadillo.
Yeah, there's Elizabeth.
And there's
there behind
Elizabeth.
you.
So there's our booth there.
Yeah, they have a mascot. For those of you that don't know, this is the Air Force Museum that's on the civilian side, so to speak. It's free. Every launch pad is featured around the room. It is just fabulous. And then, of course, they have the other Cape Canaveral
Yes.
Museum inside the gate, which is a special tour there, but it's just right outside the gate on the boat side, the tours, what am I saying?
The port side.
Port side
Yes.
there,
Yep.
where the cruise ships are, Carnival Cruise, I think, is on that side, and Disney. That's how you get into it. It's just fabulous museum.
Yeah. And
Great
like you
gift
said,
shop.
it was just bustling with people
Yeah.
that day.
Rupert is their mascot.
Yeah.
We've talked about having a mascot here at our museum to
Oh,
could
yes.
tag team with Rupert there, but
Looks like I'm wearing the same shirt today.
well, that's all right. You're representing well on
And-
there.
And there, of course, is Jamie Draper, the museum director, and the man in the middle is Gabriel Rothblatt, who is now involved with your museum
He's
as
actually
well.
our interim director, doing a great job.
And he's one of our board members.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
He's executive of your chapter, isn't he?
Yeah,
He's
of our local Florida chapter.
No,
Florida Space Development
we're,
Council.
We're blessed that Gabriel's on our board, timely enough there.
Yes.
Actually, a personal friend of Karen.
Yes.
And so, there's Jamie Draper, the director of the
And then
center there, and Robert
Robert
Katz,
yes.
who often you'll see in black and yellow
Yes.
in there.
And
usually
he's
there.
just a force of nature with putting this together, bringing all this talent and getting all these companies. And for me, I've talked to a lot of prospective employees. I talked to a lot of students about working in space or aerospace. And while people came over to talk about NSS, Elizabeth and I talked to a lot of students who were there looking for internships and co-op positions, and they were, we're giving them advice.
Mhm.
When you're going to talk to some companies, Northrop Grumman had a long line, Blue Origin had a long line.
Yeah.
It was
Yeah, it was amazing.
Yes.
Gabriel and I manned our bench, our nonprofit over there.
That's right. You had a booth.
We may have got some leads on some STEAM educators,
Right,
there
us
that were
as
looking
well.
in there. But these things are always fun to go to, in my opinion. I'm a people person like you are, Burt. And,
Yes.
and just to rub elbows there. And once again, that's Jamie Draper on the left. He's been the director there about 4 years, and he has made his impact there. Formerly, Jamie was over the, I think the President Ford Museum up
Oh,
in
really?
Michigan.
Okay.
Is where he came from. So been a great asset to the Space Coast. We did a show with him a while back. Bart Martindale actually interviewed him, and we need to get Jamie back on a Stay Curious segment here.
And there's you can see the crowd.
Yeah.
that was there. 378 people.
Is that right?
That's how many attended.
Wow.
Yes.
That was something else.
And they all seemed like they were there at the same time.
Yeah, free. Yeah. Yeah, really, that was in there. So,
So,
all right, you got something new
so
here.
this is something different. And I thought I'd just add, I'm at the end now, so I've shared a lot of my
Right. Coming at the
my
end of a
vacation
wonderful
pictures, right?
topic. Yes, right.
But over the weekend, I made a trip out to North Dakota.
Really?
And you say, why would I go to North Dakota?
Yeah.
So I'm trying to get to the All 50 Club, meaning visiting all 50 states. So
Okay.
North Dakota I've been stuck at 47. North Dakota is now 48. So I still have 2 more states to go, Vermont and Alaska, which I'm going to get.
Incredibly, there is an astronaut from North Dakota. I think it's Sam Gemar. Marty will research
Okay.
that for me. Who do you think's from North Dakota?
Roger Maris is from North Dakota. Who, of course.
Lee Solid was from
you
North
know.
Dakota, the great rocket engineer.
Yeah.
What, Marty? Go ahead.
I'll look it up in a minute, but I don't want to lose my place on my Wikipedia. But during the course of the Space Shuttle program, a total of 46 RS-25 engines were used.
46.
I would
Okay.
think more than that. but-
All right.
Okay.
All right.
For
Okay.
135 flights.
All right. Thank you, Marty, for that research there. On Stay Curious. We got, like I said, Steve Jokem's S1C and the S2 came on the Cape by barges as well. Thank you, Steve.
Very good.
Like you, we're just in awe of the intelligent space lovers that
Well, you
found
always
Stay
learn
Curious.
something when you do something like
And
this.
I'd rather have the quality than the quantity,
Mm.
folks. I really would.
So,
Because they appreciate what you're talking about.
Right.
So North Dakota.
so
Marty's going to tell you the astronaut from North Dakota.
I'm going to tell you 3 astronauts.
Three
from North
astronauts from
Dakota.
Three.
3. James Belushi.
Who?
James, I can't pronounce his name. Buchli.
Oh,
Lucy.
Buckley.
Buckley.
Yeah,
Okay.
James Buckley. He's in the Hall of Fame.
Yeah. Richard Hebe and Anthony England.
He and Anthony.
England.
wow.
Tony England.
Yeah, England waited a long time to fly, and Hebe is part of the 3 EVA to grab that SATCOM satellite
Oh,
on STS-49.
okay.
And that's how I beat Alzheimer's, is rattling stuff off like that, my friend. You need to do the same
I
thing.
will do. I definitely need to do the same
You know
thing.
quite a bit.
But I decided to
Marty.
make this trip to get in State 48, and one of the things I wanted to see was the Ronald Reagan Minuteman Missile State Historic Site.
Okay.
So I'd been to a Titan missile silo outside of Tucson,
Oh.
right? So and wanted to see what the Minuteman silo was like, and I'd read about this online. It's out in the middle of nowhere. It's in a place called Cooperstown,
Okay.
North Dakota.
Not Cooperstown, New York.
Not Cooperstown, New York.
Where the
So
Hall of Fame
it's
of
about
baseball is.
it's about 100 miles from Fargo. I actually flew into Bismarck. It's about 168 miles from Bismarck.
Huh.
So made the drive out there, and
Hardcore.
yeah, the site
Burt. Wow.
the site was one that was deactivated as part of START, the Strategic Arms Reduction Treaty that was signed in 1991.
Okay.
And so the group that, the Historical Society there in North Dakota, along with the state government, they said, can we turn one of these into a kind of a museum as an attraction to show the historical significance? Because part of the treaty had them actually destroying the silos.
Wow.
That was part of the treaty, that both sides had to let it be open so you could see the sites being destroyed. And the missiles, of course, were taken away and disassembled, but they were able to preserve this site. And this is the launch control support building. So this is above the ground, and inside it has it's a facility for 6 guards would guard the facility, 6 security people. There was a facility manager and a chef.
8 people.
8 people, and then of course the 2 crew that are in the missile silo. So you can see what they were telling me was in the early 70s, these places were not all that attractive, and they realized it was really hard duty. So they actually really improved them color-wise, furniture-wise, recreation. that type of thing. And you can see the kitchen there and the menu that they had. And what they were telling me is that the service members who manned this had to actually buy their meals because they got per diem because they were officially off the base.
Oh,
You know,
wow.
this is not on the base. So these people are spread out over thousands of square miles, and in this silo, they actually are responsible for 10 missiles total.
Jeez.
Yes, so
Nuclear
yeah.
weapons on top of it.
So it was interesting, you know, there's a security area where they're monitoring everything. They were doing everything with sound and motion detectors. So you go down 50 feet, and I saw a video of what they did. There's actually, they excavate the whole area. Then they build these capsules. One capsule is for equipment. The other capsule is for the launch control center. They put rebar around the capsule, and then it's covered in 4 feet of concrete. It's a cast around it, and then the whole thing is filled up. Okay, so that's what's underground that you didn't see there from that first picture. All this is under that launch control support building. So if you go back to
Yeah, the way it
Yeah,
looks right there.
everything is underground, 50 feet underground.
Huh.
So you take an elevator down to the facility. So the one before that is that's the equipment side. So
Okay.
all the equipment that runs the launch control center is there. They have emergency generators. They've got airflow systems that bring air in, of course, and expel air out. And you see those the cylinders there that look green. The floor is actually on isolators.
Huh.
So if there's an explosion, if there's an attack, the idea is
Floating floor.
it would floating floor to protect the equipment.
Wow.
So yeah, there we go. Yeah.
Marty's holding up a
Isolator.
prop here. That's another isolator
Yeah.
used in the shuttle era, Marty.
Well, it used in Apollo also.
Okay.
So-
MLP-1.
So it's a spring.
Yeah. The
You
idea.
can't move this at all, but yeah. Cool.
Yep. The idea there is to
Stuff we have laying
to
around
protect
there.
the equipment. So each capsule, the equipment side is isolated, and also the launch control center. There's a 9-ton door. This is the door leading to the launch control center. There's a 13-ton door that leads to the equipment side. So, and these are closed. And once you're in, you're in.
Wow.
So this is inside the launch control center. This is the commander station there. So again, there's an assistant and a commander, and they are on duty for 24 hours. So they're down below there in that launch control center for 24 hours. They're on duty once every 3 days, and then it averages out to about 8 days a month they would be on duty. So 24 hours straight. And so what you're seeing here, you've probably seen it in the movies. That's where the launch keys are, behind those two locks. Each of the
2 locks. Yeah,
Yeah.
there's one above your head.
Yeah, there are 2 locks there. Yeah. So each of the crew members there has their own lock with their own combination. They both have to, if a signal came in to launch, they both open the lock to get the keys out. Yes.
You
So
need both of them.
you need both. You can't do it
Okay.
with just one. That's the whole idea of the safety. So I thought that was really fascinating.
Kind of worn there. Well, they've opened it up a few times. So.
Oh yes,
Yeah.
yes. And so that panel shows the status of the 10 missiles that they would be responsible for launching. And so again, they each have to turn a key in their console to launch.
Huh.
And then there's actually, I didn't even know this, somewhere else, the 2 other people are turning their keys, and that gives it actually is 4 people that are launching the missiles. So they were responsible for 10. And they were telling me it was in a way good duty because they could a lot of these officers got their master's degrees. You're not at war, so they're down there monitoring the systems. They're checking things, doing maintenance.
So they're studying,
but they're studying
yeah,
that.
getting-
Yeah.
in the spare time.
And
They're not
exactly.
looking at their
So
cell phone.
a lot
or-
were able to get their master's degree and do
Interesting.
that. And this is I believe this is the final picture.
They wouldn't. There's no rocket.
There's no missile there. Yes, there's
Okay.
no missile there. But under that huge door was a Minuteman III missile. Yes, a nuclear missile. And these are spread all over. They were in South Dakota, North Dakota, Wyoming. There, lots of ground they cover. And again, each of these flights is what they called. They would launch 10 missiles. And there's no one. What I found interesting, there was
So
no
there's
one.
10 silos around there.
Yeah, there's
around
only
that
one
whole-
missile there, but they're all spread out. They're not next to the launch control center.
in the farmlands
in
of
farmlands.
North Dakota.
So what they were telling me when they built these is that the government came in and bought up land, but if anyone didn't want to sell, they used eminent domain and got the land. Once they actually closed out and took the missiles out and destroyed those silos, they sold the land back to people. People bought the land back. Yeah.
I understand. I heard that this is a Minuteman.
This is the Minuteman.
It was a solid fuel.
Solid fuel. Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
The Titan that launched the
Gemini.
was to be considered the hypergolic fuels that it used in there. That was interesting that they were going to use Titan for the MX system.
Oh, right.
Around the country.
Right.
Again in there.
Yeah.
I've heard some of these are bed and breakfasts.
I don't know about
Have
that.
you heard that?
But one uses. She was telling me that one who bought it, they're actually in the munitions business, and they're using it. They use the site for storage because it's out.
Okay.
It's very isolated. So
I had no idea what you were, what those images were about when I loaded
yeah,
them up
no,
there.
I
That's
just
cool.
thought it might be interesting for people to see it. But what fascinates me as an engineer is the thought that went into creating those silos.
Yeah.
And
They didn't drill down.
Yeah.
They just excavated
They
everything.
excavated the whole
built
thing.
them, then covered them up
Yeah,
again.
yeah.
50 feet down.
50 feet down. Now, obviously, they're not going to survive a direct hit, but the idea was that if a missile came close, an enemy missile came, they could survive. They had emergency generators. They had 2 weeks worth of food there and water that was stored in there as well.
Wow.
Yes.
MREs and
So very interesting.
MREs and a lot of government cheese.
But that was my trip to North Dakota.
Thank you. Well, thanks for sharing that. I'm going to reel off here that Doug Forrest is watching Los Angeles. He's happy to see you today. Dean Babcock, Bill Whiting, Dave Stange, Steve J, Man Space, which is Mitch Rothman, Tom Celentano, Carlton Bailey, Brian Camp, Robert Law, Rick Sedler, Gary Gerald, Go on the 1202, Cliff Watson, and the one and only Tommy Usiak watching from
good group.
Lancaster, Pennsylvania
group.
today. And there'll be more watching, not like Hazel Banks. She doesn't chime in on there. You can watch without being a subscriber. But if you're a subscriber, that puts our numbers up there because we had to have 1,000 subscribers to even put this show on YouTube.
Oh, okay. I didn't know that.
And
okay.
we monetize it. We've got almost 4,000 watching and
Fabulous.
making a little bit of money. We're not making Tim Dodd the everyday astronaut type of money, but
Now, do we get any residuals for being guests?
you can go through my swag bag there, my friend, and take anything you want out of there because we really appreciate you.
My
And
pleasure.
You know we're always there for you guys.
Well, it was fun. It was fun today. Hopefully, I shared some things.
It was fun.
Yeah,
It was
yes.
fun. Now, what 2 states do you still have to go to?
I still have to get to Vermont and Alaska.
Well, Vermont does not have an astronaut.
No,
They've
I
gone
didn't know
to
that.
space.
How about
No,
Alaska?
There's 3. Yes, Alaska does. Vermont, Nevada, and Wyoming do not have astronauts.
Really? That's
Yeah.
interesting.
3 states. Alaska does. Don't have time to look that up, but we will in the future there. But thank you so much, my friend.
Pleasure.
It always
My
means
pleasure,
a lot
Mark.
that
Yes.
you want to spend your time here
Absolutely.
on Stay Curious. And
Hopefully,
you
I'll get an
can-
invite back.
Oh, of course. You can work on what you want to talk about in as we're here at the end of the month of August, so September's fair game.
Yep.
And once again, we're anxious to get Rod Pyle,
I'll talk to
your
Rod.
editor,
Yeah.
on there.
Yes,
Because we
absolutely.
can do a Google Meets with him when the next issue comes out. But
Okay. Yeah.
he is a very big influencer, of course. Maybe he doesn't have time for our humble little show.
I'm
here,
sure he will.
but we'd like to talk to him, as he's got a lot of friends out there. Well, thank you, Burt, for bringing us a great perspective, a different perspective on space. And we always enjoy talking current events with our guests. So thank you for sharing with us there. Thank you all for being with us here today on Stay Curious. Tomorrow's Thursday. I'm going to do some space news. Friday, we have 2 employees of Via Space
Ooh,
coming on to talk to you. Future Space
that's an interesting
Fridays.
company.
Via Space,
yes.
their Dauntless rocket
Yes.
is progressing along quite nicely. It will be a like a 5,000 payload to low Earth orbit,
Right.
but they've got 30 launches lined up already,
Wow.
and they probably won't do their first launch.
And they're
until next
using
year.
a sustainable model of
Yes,
recycled materials, that type
They
of thing.
actually, a great question, Bert. They use plastic
Right.
recycled, but if you hand me your, or it's the, they don't want the plastic bottle. It's not
Okay.
it's
The
the
cap.
plastic caps.
Interesting.
Is what they're recycling. They make it into granular uh, substances that burn.
Okay.
And we had one of the young engineers that talked about the igniter on that. Oh my gosh! As you know, the shuttle igniters up at the top
Right.
of the SRBs. And this is a similar type of thing that one of the young men have a patent on. Not of them talking, but I'll talk about them
Yeah.
tomorrow,
Fabulous.
as we will have future Fridays. A great company in our backyard, of Cocoa, Florida, here just 20 miles away is their factory. So sustainable 3D printed, all that good clean stuff. So thanks again, Bert. Thank you, Marty, for a great job on Streamlabs there and handling our questions from guests. And thank you all. I'm Mark Marquette saying I can't wait to see you in our museum or on Stay Curious to bridge the space between us. Thank you for watching.